All right. Well, we watched a bunch of videos on things doing, sodium, lithium, different types of solids like sodium chloride and lithium chloride, and what they do in water. And so, hopefully, you start seeing some patterns. And yeah, so this next lesson is not going to be putting stuff in water anymore, but we're going to start looking at, well, some people mentioned in their their thinking and their writing, some stuff about elements, and this lesson is um, you're gonna need these cards. And so on the Google Doc, there's a set of these cards, and ideally you could print them out. Now I know that some of you don't have printers, so if you look at the sheet and you start jotting down some notes, and you need a chart, that chart on the Google Doc, to start organizing where you're going to start, like how are these put together. So ideally, if you have these, if you have them printed out, go ahead and print them out, or somehow I can get some copies to you. And then a pair of scissors, and start cutting them. Okay, I'm not going to cut them all for you on this. And I don't, I'm not I don't do a terrible job with cutting. I remember my daughter, once she had an art camp, and she, the art teacher has some jobs for them to cut things, and one time she asked, like you have to get your cutting driver's license, and so they had a cutting test that they had to do, and she was not the best at using the scissors, and so she's like, here's my job. Do I get my driver's colors license? And she's like, maybe go wash the brushes, and come back next year to try and get your driver's colors license. So if you have your driving color license, or even if you don't, just cut the things up, and we'll see you back in a few minutes. Okay, so now you should have these things cut up. This is how I cut them up. I probably would not get my driver's colors license. I don't like to cut off all these other things up here if I'm not using them for class. It's just for my personal use. So if you get bothered by this, then cut your own. But I'm going to take a look at these two cards here. So I have arsenic, this one, and I have beryllium. So these are the first. I think these are the first two that I put on the sheet. And what you're going to start doing is looking to see, do they belong together? How would I group these? And so obviously what I don't want you to do, I know that you probably have looked at the periodic table of the elements. Don't look at that. It's not going to do you any good for this lesson, because what we're looking for is patterns, okay? So we want to look and see, if I had arsenic, if I had beryllium, would I group them together? Would I put them together? And so let's take a look at some of the properties here. Arsenic is a solid. It's a metalloid. We don't really know what metalloids are, so you have questions. Write down your questions, like what's a metalloid? What does that mean? So that you look at the physical properties: it's shiny, gray, brittle, metallic. It's got reacts with oxygen. And reacts to some acids. Okay, don't really look at the density. I think just the physical properties mostly, and then the chemical properties. So those are the arsenic properties. That's like a beryllium. Beryllium is a solid. It's a metal. So metalloid. This kind of sounds similar, but are they the same? I don't really know. Physical properties: it's a brittle, hard metal with grayish white surface. So they are both, like they kind of look sort of similar. They're both brittle, but one is shiny. This one doesn't say it's shiny. And then chemical properties: reacts with acids, forms hydrogen gas. And so we see that this one also reacts with acids, but this one also reacts with oxygen. So would they go together? Maybe, maybe not. You can decide. So you decide how you're going to put them, but you can make as many groups as you want. We can take a look at some other ones here. So if I have something like, let's say I take nitrogen. Okay, so I have nitrogen here. And nitrogen is a gas. It's a non-metal. All right, so it's a colorless, odorless, tasteless, reacts with oxygen in the presence of a spark. And so would that go with any of these other ones? Well, right now it doesn't look like it. This is a non-metal. These other two things are metals or metalloids. And so maybe this one is totally different. So you might put that in a different grouping. Okay. Maybe find some other things that are non-metals. So let's look at oxygen. Oxygen is a non-metal. It's colorless, odorless, tasteless. So they look pretty similar right now. Chemical properties aids in the combustion or burning of other objects or elements. Reacts with most elements at room temperature. So maybe not. You can see that they have some similarities and some differences. But that's what you're looking for, to see if I group them together, maybe why are they grouping together? Let's take a look at one more, a couple other ones here. Argon. So argon is another one that was up there. It's a non-metal. It doesn't react with anything. Well, so this one here does not react with anything. This is also colorless, odorless, tasteless, and that reacts with something. So maybe do they go together or do they not go together? You have to kind of make the call on that to say, well, what things are important here? Do I see anything else that does not react with anything? Let's take a look. Well, how about Krypton? Okay, so Krypton. Yes, Krypton, not like Superman Krypton, but it's actually an element. It's colorless, odorless, tasteless, it's a non-metal, and it also doesn't react with anything. Oh, I forgot. What happened to Argon? There we go. So these two both don't react with anything. Maybe they go together. I'm seeing some similarities here. So when you're going through these cards and you're going through things, make sure you look at the physical properties and the chemical properties and see, do you think they belong together? And then start reasoning it. Use patterns, form some groups, and make sure you can justify your groupings so that when you come to the class and start discussing these things, which ones go together, then you can make some sense out of it. All right, good luck.